three reasons I got the Canon EOS M50 Mark I after my 70D. So the first reason is that I wanted a smaller camera. This camera is now smaller, which is also the big downside that I now cannot grab it properly with my not that small hands. Now, I did have a partial solution to this, which was using a rubber case, but the problem with the rubber case is as soon as you mount an Arca Swiss blade or you mount the camera on any tripod, then you have these two rubber straps which can basically mean that you cannot secure this properly. Now the second reason is again the flip out screen. I wanted to stay, first of all, also, now these are other reasons, but the flip out screen is also kind of still present on this here, and I actually looked into getting a Sony camera, but I didn't eventually, because well, the flip out screen was something that has only been like this available on Canon cameras, and it also is just, it hasn't broken off yet, even though I sometimes might have used it in a way that would have potentially led to it being broken off, but it hasn't broken off neither on my 70D nor on the 60D I have used a little bit before, nor on this Canon EOS M50. So the first big reason is the flip out screen. The second big reason is that it was a comparably cheap camera. I actually figured I wanted to get, now the first big reason was actually kind of the smaller form factor. Now the smaller form factor to a certain extent is kind of eliminated by the need now for an adapter, because I am using EFS lenses and EF lenses instead of the Canon EOS M lenses, which they don't have many, and also they seem to not sell at a very high volume or trade at a very high volume, which means that I could get them, the EFS lenses and also the EF lenses, kind of cheaper, maybe at a third, not at a third, but by 2/3 of the price compared to maybe getting the EOS M lenses. The second reason then was the flip out screen, and now the third reason is budget. If I have this camera and I lose this camera kit, maybe my whole camera bag, then the cost of replacing this is maybe, in this case, around 400 for the camera, which I got refurbished for, I think, 390 euros or something like this. Then this lens cost me around 190, I think, if I'm not totally mistaken. Then this lens also cost around 130, 160 or something like this. This lens was around 90 to 110 or something like this, which is, I got this actually new, and this is the 50mm from Canon. This is the 10 to 18mm EFS lens, also from Canon, the wide angle lens. And then I also needed to get an adapter, which I did not have. I didn't calculate this, so I just figured I'd get a speed booster. So this is actually the speed booster, and what I didn't realize is that with the speed booster I couldn't mount the EFS lenses, so I would have to get the EF lenses, which would have sold at a higher price compared to the, well, EFS lenses, which are made for APS-C cameras, and APS-C are more entry, so therefore these lenses, this lens, and as well as the 18 to 135 was a little bit cheaper. But now again to the cost. So if I would lose my entire camera bag, then the cost mostly of replacing it would be the camera itself and also the lenses. Now of course also SD cards and also the camera bag costs something, and also all the equipment probably also costs maybe something. So in total, now this kit, let's just say this kit here, the adapter, I don't know how much it costs, maybe anywhere from 50 to 150. The original Canon adapter would have cost even more, and I also have two adapters, the speed booster as well as the normal adapter, because, well, otherwise I could not have mounted the EFS lenses. So this camera cost me 400, then this lens 200, and these other lenses also something like this. So let's just say it's 1k in total. If I now lose this, or if it gets stolen and I would have to replace it, then if I instead had opted for a camera that already had cost 2k or 3k and then additionally the lenses, then the whole kit would have been a multiple of what this kit had cost me. And because, well, in terms of photography, at least, this is actually not that bad. In terms of videography, I think the Sony cameras would have been better. But I also do have the flip-out screen on this, and I very much like the flip-out screen. So I opted for this camera also because it was at a very low budget compared to actually getting the 80D or the 90D, which would have cost me 600, 700 or 800 euros also refurbished. I got also this camera refurbished, and with camera and lenses, you just can't get it refurbished usually. And you can also, again, sell these lenses refurbished, which is, I think, also kind of a nice thing. And also, if you get them refurbished, then you don't have the margin of you buying it at a higher price and then having to resell at a lower price, because you already bought it refurbished, so therefore there is less of a difference between the purchase price and also the potential reselling price. So by getting the Canon EOS M50 instead of the 80D, let's say, I got a smaller camera. I got again a camera with a flip-out screen, which would also have been true for the 80D or the 90D, but then also I got it significantly cheaper. Now a big downside to this is that I think still prefer a camera with a mirror compared to a mirrorless camera, because I would like to look through this here like looking through a binocular and also observe reality through it. If you are at a soccer game, for example, you can just look through this like a binocular. And then whenever you like a moment you actually are seeing, you can just click and then it's a picture. And with this here I have the viewfinder, and the viewfinder is, I think, one of the biggest downsides. There are also, so I would say the handle, or the lack of the handle, is a big downside of this camera. Then the small form factor is actually kind of an upside. Now, what I also have these two different adapters, and this also means that I now have 6 different mounting options, because, well, I have 3 lenses multiplied by 2 adapters. If I would say I would not use the speed booster at all, which would mean that I would have a higher focal length in terms of this, so I would have the 80mm APS-C, because 50mm multiplied by the 1.6, instead of having the 56.8 or something like this, with the 1.6 multiplied by the 0.71, which are basically the multiplication, which is the multiplication factor which you find on the speed booster here. And what I then have this portrait lens in is 56mm. What this is an advantage, and I also can get more bokeh out of this. And, well, the other big downside is the viewfinder. I would very much prefer a viewfinder that was basically giving me reality, and I would look to reality, have a window to reality like on a binocular, and here I have the latency. Similarly to how if you just look at a mirror, then you can see yourself in a mirror. But if you're looking at yourself through a camera, then yeah, there is always this slight feedback. Just think of opening up your camera on the front of your phone and then trying to do something. There is always this latency. Similarly to how you try to do something with your computer, and there is always this latency, and sometimes you wait 30 seconds or something for a specific action, where with a mirror, or also with doing things in real life, similar to how I record these videos kind of in real life instead of having other elements, because then I can kind of act in real life and only the recording is latent. This is, I think, a big issue, and, well, I couldn't solve it, but this means now I have kind of the small camera. Also, a big downside of this kit here is that it has not the greatest low light performance. In terms of low light performance, actually my phone performs, the Galaxy S10 performs kind of better compared to this here, if I have this lens on, but also if I have this lens on, and that's about it.